of a shot of winning. We can beat anybody in the world, and I think we're going to win next Sunday.
Hello and welcome back to the New York Jets Atlantic Flight Podcast. After last week's 34-10 drubbing by the Miami Dolphins, the Jets go to Florida, lucky them, to play the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are riding high at the moment at 9-4, dizzying heights, while the Jets are still languishing at 3-10. I say that quietly. I know that many of you listening to this now will hope that win column just stays at 3, and to be honest, I can't blame you for feeling that way. After all, we've got a war chest of draft picks, and it would be a shame, wouldn't it, for want of a better way, to waste them on having to trade up, if that's what the Jets intend doing on draft day. But anyway, let's take a quick look at the tale of these two teams historically. The Jets and Jags are actually tied with 9 wins each, and although the wins usually come in bunches, this has happened for both teams over the years recently. It doesn't seem to matter whether the Jags or Jets are having a good or a bad season, as these contests more than likely end up being decided by a single score of 7 or less points. But interestingly, in this time, I can't believe I'm even saying this, Jaguars' Trevor Lawrence has never ever thrown a touchdown pass against the Jets. That is just incredible. The likelihood is, though, that this is going to change this week, with the Jags having an incredibly potent deep passing game. But I know I'm going out on a limb here, and most likely you're about to laugh, but I think this is the game that is likely going to produce our first interception of the season, primarily exactly for that reason I've just mentioned, the deep ball. But take that with a pinch of salt, because I thought that was going to happen against Tua, who's thrown, I think it was at that point, 14 or 15 interceptions, and he didn't throw any last week. So take that with a pinch of salt. I know nothing. But I do know this. After facing Bijan Robinson of the Falcons and then last week Devon Achane for the Dolphins, we now face another good running back, Travis Etienne of the Jags. So far, he's amassed 917 yards off 201 carries, and that's an average of 4.6 yards per carry and netting 7 touchdowns. He hasn't fumbled the ball either, so the fumbles that we've had on our team, they've always come at critical times, so not a back that doesn't fumble is worth their weight in gold. But I don't think that's likely to change against us either. So we just cannot turn the ball over at any way, shape or form. And once again, like the Dolphins, the RB2 is no slouch either. Bashal Tutin has racked up 277 yards on 77 carries, and that's an average of 3.6 yards a carry. He scored 4 touchdowns, so that's not shabby, but he's only lost 1 fumble only. Remarkably, Trevor Lawrence has also rushed for 251 yards and scored 5 touchdowns, but there is a but. He's fumbled twice and he's lost one of those. So we'll take that. If we can get one of those, let's do it. Of course, the biggest issue when it comes to teams rushing against us is how to stop it. Last week against the Dolphins, they exposed just how bad our defence is and how much it actually needs fixing. Not only do we need help in the trenches, but we also need help at linebacker. And I expect a complete refit in 2026. Possibly Quincy Williams coming back. I would like to see that. Personally, I think they extended the wrong linebacker. But Quincy, as we said last week with Ryan, I think Ryan said he's 27 years old. So, a 1-year deal, 2-year deal. All of a sudden, these guys just fall off a cliff face. Look what happened to CJ Mosley. The guy did have injuries to the back end of his career, but he went very, very quickly. He just lost all his pace. He was a good football brain, but he just couldn't make it up with his body. But I do think there's a real possibility that Jamie Sherwood could either be a backup or, and this is a big if, gets traded. But it could be a very, very long day for the Jets' rushing defence. But when it comes to the passing games, the Jags seem to spread the ball out amongst their wide receiver core. If you look at their stats, it's just all over. It's littered with people that have got 200 yards, 300 yards. But Brian Thomas Jr. leads the way with 535 yards on 69 targets and 35 receptions. Oddly enough, though, he's only got 1 touchdown, so he's not exactly a touchdown machine. Well, again, what's that change again? But then again, this is the Jets, and Trevor Lawrence hasn't thrown a touchdown against us. So could this be about the change? Parker Washington, he's next up. He's got 447 yards on 63 targets, but 36 receptions with 3 touchdowns. So again, it's not. It doesn't light the world on fire, does it? Tight end Brenton Strange, he's a useful tool for Trevor Lawrence, and he can be an outlet. He's actually picked up 369 yards of 39 targets with 31 receptions. So when he is used, he's fairly effective. But again, his touchdowns are low with only 1. Another threat, and he's been missing for the best part of the year though, is 6'2" Jacoby Myers in his 7th year now, I think. But he's not been active this year, but he's still managed to pick up. I think he's only played 5 games, 284 yards, but he scored 3 touchdowns. So if he plays, he's going to be one to watch, particularly around the end zone. If you like a bet, first player to score, don't come running at me if he doesn't. But I think he'd be a good shout for first player to score. On the other side of the ball for the Jags, they're ranked number 1 overall in rush defence, and they've only given up 82 yards on average a game and 9 rushing touchdowns, which is unbelievable. So I think that kind of points to how the Jags are actually winning these games. They're winning on the back of the defense. So if the Jets are going to get anything done in this game, they've got to give Brady Cook, whoever else is under centre, a chance, and they're going to have to do it what a lot of other teams haven't been able to do this year, and that's run against them. But there is a however. The Jaguars' passing defence is ranked 22nd overall, and they're giving up 227.5 yards a game and 22 touchdowns. But that's only going to happen if we have a balanced attack, which we rarely have seen this year. It's either been pass heavy or it's been run heavy. We never seem to have a good balance. After last week's drops by Mechie and Mitchell, they are going to have to improve their mental awareness and really concentrate. If you can get 2 hands on the ball, you have to be catching it. We keep saying this. They are getting their hands on the ball and they're just not doing it. And when you look around the league and you're seeing wide receivers catching with 1 hand, it's a little bit maddening when you're seeing these guys getting 2 hands on it and they're not picking it up. That is coachable, and hopefully these guys will be getting better. They've got the chance. Mason Taylor did not practice this week and he's currently out with a neck injury, so it'll be a huge loss if he does not play. But that said, Jeremy Ruckert played well enough last week, and hopefully he'll build on that against a rocky Jaguars pass defence. I'll just mention there that Brady Cook could be under centre. The other QB who's currently fit at the moment is re-signed QB Adrian Martinez, who a lot of people, including myself, liked, but was quite disappointed when he was let go. But in pre-season, Brady Cook did outplay him, and it was the right decision at the end of the day. But I am glad to see him back. I do think Martinez has something to offer, but other teams that have had him, I think he was with the 49ers, he didn't really see the game at all. But I can't see Martinez getting the start over Brady Cook this week because he's been taking reps with the first team. But whoever is going to be under centre is going to have a hard time with a defence that is ranked 24th overall with 25 sacks. Josh Hines-Allen leads the team with 7 sacks, 11 tackles for loss. But defensive tackle Arik Armstead also makes his presence felt with 5.5 sacks and 7 tackles for loss. So this guy can get into the backfield and wreak havoc. But our O-line, they need to step up. They didn't have a good game against the Dolphins last week and looked a bit ragged at times, so hopefully this is a bounce back game for them, but it's going to be a big ask. But when it comes to interceptions, it's actually a linebacker for the Jags who leads the way, Devin Lloyd. He's got 5. It's odd, Travis Hunter has yet to get off his duck, but again, this is where things can go really, really wrong this time of the year, and so of course we know what's going to happen this year. Overall, I think he's had quite a disappointing season. Personally, I would not have made his primary position. I would make his primary position cornerback and sprinkle in a little bit of wide receiver. Not the way he's set up now. So he's primarily he's a wide receiver and he plays occasionally as cornerback. So maybe that changes next year. Overall, And Jets fans can only get giddy at this. The Jags have had 15 interceptions and are ranked second overall in the NFL. I think they're like +8 in takeaways, and we're -15 or something. No prizes for guessing where the Jets rank. If you're struggling with the number, Braylon Allen has it. For me, this game is going to be lost or won for the Jags, who hold the keys. If they can get their rush attack going, which I can't see any reason why they're not going to be able to, they're going to feed off play action as well, should they need it. The Jags rank highly in passes, over 20 plus yards in the last few weeks, and we saw against the Dolphins last week, if the Jags come out scoring quickly and often, we could very, very likely see another replay with the same outcome. Probably worse, as the Jags, in my opinion, they're a better team. I would go into detail with the Jets injury report, but if I did, this would turn into an hour-long podcast. So I'll just read out those who did not practice this week. Justin Fields, Breece Hall, Jermaine Johnson, Francisco Mauigoa, Kiko, Harrison Phillips, Stone Smart, Mason Taylor, Tyrod Taylor, AZ and Quincy Williams. Those that did practice, Tony Adams, Brady Cook and Cam Jones, they all took knocks during the game last week, but they were all at full practice. But this is up to Wednesday's injury report. As usual, this has been recorded on a Thursday, and the IR report hasn't come out this side of the pond just yet. On the other side of the ball, the Jacksonville Jaguars are largely healthy, although Trevor Lawrence, who picked up an ankle knock, was limited in practice, as was Arik Armstead, who's also had an injury to his hand, but both should be available on Sunday. In other news this week, the Jets signed defensive lineman Eric Watts to the active roster and placed defensive lineman Tyler Barron on injured reserve. As I said earlier, Adrian Martinez is now added to the active roster as a backup and likely the emergency quarterback. But flying under the radar a little bit, we also signed another tight end, Nick Muse, to the practice squad. He's a 6'5", 252-pound, 7th round pick draft from the Vikings in 2022. He spent 3 seasons with the Vikings and appeared in 16 games. He's also been on the Eagles, Cardinals and Rams practice squad this season and was let go by the Rams on Tuesday. So he wasn't unemployed for long. So I guess these teams all see something in him. So I was just wondering what we see in him. We seem to have a lot of tight ends on our roster at the moment. Not that many are healthy. Another player that's largely flown under the radar this week is cornerback Samuel Womack, who also got signed to the practice squad. He's an ex-teammate of Jarvis Brownlee at the Titans. Womack stands at 5'10", 189 pounds, prototypical size. He appeared in 5 games with the Titans this season and has had 4 tackles and 1 PD. He's also played with the Colts in 2024. 17 games he appeared in and made 8 starts. He had 36 tackles and 2 interceptions with 9 PDs. Originally he was drafted 5th overall by the 49ers in 2022. Making way for him on the practice squad was receiver Brandon Smith, who a few of us were quite high on and making the 53. Hopefully we can pick him up again at some point. I'm sad to see him go, to be honest, especially if you've got guys dropping the ball. I don't think he dropped that much, him and Quentin Skinner. I wish there were Jets still. But the Jets also signed defensive lineman Kingsley Jonathan to the practice squad. Jonathan is 6'4", 260 pounds. And if that name sounds familiar, it is because he spent the summer with the Jets and appeared in all 3 preseason games. But then he was waived, unfortunately. He was an undrafted free agent in 2022. And at this point, the way things are with our defensive line, I like the fact that we're still taking swings and leaving no stone unturned. I will say this, sometimes players just need another bite at the apple. Just look at Isaiah Williams. I don't know any Jets fan that wanted him back after his disastrous start, and now look what's happened. Second chances are rare in the NFL, and when they do come along, players usually grab them with both hands, which is something that our wide receivers need to be doing on and focusing on. So before we get to our predictions, because I've got the predictions from the boys, let's visit our old friend, the Tankathon. As it stands going into this weekend, the Giants are picking first, then the Raiders and Titans, Browns, Saints, Commanders, and then the Jets, who are also tied with Arizona at 3 and 10, so we're at 7. The routing guide should go something like this. Now, this is my own personal opinion. The Jets need the Giants, Raiders, and Titans with 2 or 3 wins to win. But there's also the benefit to the Giants and Titans losing as well, as both are unlikely to take a quarterback, which just leaves the Raiders, who could be the first ones taking a quarterback. But if the Giants and the Titans stay pat at 1 and 2, they will make good trading partners for anyone that was wanting to move up a little bit. If we could move up maybe 2 or 3 spots, it's going to make things a lot easier. Again, we don't want to be really throwing away all these draft picks, but it's going to be a nail-biting finish to the end of the season. But personally, I honestly don't think the Jets are going to win another win. With just so many holes all over this team, and the longer this season has been going on, the more exposed they've been getting. The NIJAF crew, the New York Jets Atlantic Flight crew, couldn't make it today, but I have their predictions. Ryan thinks that they will beat us by 12 to 15 points, but we will score 2 touchdowns this week. He thinks the final score will be 35-23, but with some of those scores coming in garbage time. Andy's picked up the Jags to win 27-18 and favours the spread, which is at this moment 11.5. As he's mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, these games are incredibly close, and Andy rightly says that the Jaguars cannot close out the games. And as Ryan has just said, we will probably score some points in the fourth quarter and make a late run. Timmy also has the Jags winning 27-13 and making a point that we're just going to simply lack firepower to be able to compete. Plus, add that into the fact that the defence can't stop a nosebleed either. So I can't really argue with any of that. My score prediction is 27-17 Jags. But my only hope is that we try and make a game of it and see some good individual performances and growth, particularly Brady Cook. Seeing Brady Cook grow with the remaining games left, it will be invaluable. But the very best of luck to them. Thank you for listening to this Jacksonville Jaguars preview. If you can, give us a follow on Twitter at NYJ Atlantic Flight Pod. And as always, go Jets.
Y'all know what to say. On 3. 1, 2, 3.